In this story, there is an alternate world King Albert of Alfredon and Prime Minister of Marx decide to summon a hero to face a dire threat. Cosmosoma, a young man training to be a civil servant, finds himself summoned as their hero. Albert and Marx explain demons who appeared 10 years ago and took over the northern kingdoms. The remaining kingdoms keep them invading, but maintaining armies is expensive, so Casio was summoned by the bankrupt Aldon kingdom to trade to the Grand Chaos kingdom instead of gold. Kazi convinces Albert to keep him as he was training to be a civil servant for 3 days. Kazuo learns everything he can about Alfredan's economy. On the 4th day, Albert announces he is addicting the throne to a shocked Kazuya, who will also marry his daughter, whose name is Ligia. Ligia is convinced Kazuya stole the kingdom, but is surprised to find he has already found the money for Grand Chaos by trading Alfred and jewelry to the neighboring Emedina Principality. Ligia realizes his other plans are also well thought out elsewhere. Duchess of Walter sends her granddaughter Canaria to spy on Kanzuya and decide if he is as capable as he appears. Marx puts Kazuya through an aptitude test to see if he can use magic. Kazuya discovers his magic can copy his consciousness into objects, which then behave as if they are him, so he enchants pens to do his paperwork. He also puts assistants to work identifying overspending and fraud in the kingdom's budget. Kazuya then invites Lisha to Alfredman's farms, where he explains too much farmland is growing cotton, which is now worthless due to supply exceeding demand. While Ligia is impressed with his insight, she seems concerned. Kanzuya still talks about one day abdicating and returning to Japan. Kanzuya later meets Captain Ludwin of the Royal Guard and explains Albert's advisors are not of much use as they caused Alfredon's problems in the first place, so he needs new advisors. Kanzuya magically transmits a message to the entire kingdom based on the teachings of his hero Kao that if anyone has an exceptionally useful skill, he will hire them regardless of age, social background, or level of education. This inspires the whole kingdom and hundreds of people to begin flocking to the city to audition their skills. Ligia wonders if Kazu would remain king if she agreed to marry him. As people begin auditioning their skills, Kanzuya meets 5 deemed the greatest. Aisha Udgard, a dark elf with exceptional military abilities, swears fealty after receiving Kazuya's knowledge on saving the dying trees of the god-protected forest. Judah Doma, a human singer with Laura Lay ancestry, sings a Japanese song from Kazuya's phone, lifting the entire kingdom spirits. Pancho Panicata, a nervous human glutton, is noted for having sampled every cuisine. Kazuya is excited to meet him as he plans to use his knowledge to save the kingdom and grants him the title of Ishizuka, seeing their king honor a man previously seen as useless. Many others are inspired to audition. Hakuya Kwan Min, a human with unrivaled knowledge and memory, asks to be Kazuya's advisor after he deems Kanzuya a good king based on how he treated Pancho. Lastly, Tominwi, a mystic wolf girl and homeless refugee, reveals she can talk to animals as she is so nervous. Kazu leaves his throne and kneels in front of her, where she whispers something important in his ear. Kazuya reveals to Marx, Ligia, and Ludwin that Tome's skill lets her speak to demons. A major barrier in the war is that no one can understand the demon language, but with Tome there exists the hope of negotiations leading to peace. Kanzuya is concerned that if news of Tome's power leaks out, it could lead to war with other kingdoms who want her power for themselves. Marx suggests Kanzuya adopt Tomo, but he cannot do that unless he is married. When Ligia suggests letting her parents adopt to Mo, as well as bringing to Maui's mother and brother to live at the palace, to Mo accepts. Lisha later becomes annoyed when Kanzuya claims the only place he can be left alone in bedroom. Pancho returns from a food gathering mission, and Kasia immediately broadcasts to the entire kingdom a rudimentary cookery program, demonstrating unfamiliar foods from other nations they can survive on until he solves the food shortage, such as octopus, burdock root, and giant locusts. Kazuya also discovers that salted beans and fermented mashed water taste identical to miso and soy sauce. Pancho reveals the final food item, which causes quite a stir. This item is a creature called gallon, which, if prepared properly, creates a dish similar to kudzu noodles. Marx announces he is retiring as Prime Minister and suggests Hakuya as his replacement. Kazi agrees and gives Marx a job, hoping to use his experience to navigate kingdom politics. Hakuya insists Kazuya take the afternoon off to relax and at the same time take Ligia on a date with Aisha as their bodyguard. Aisha reminds Kazuya to visit her forest soon, as some elves are refusing to cut down trees even if it makes the forest healthier. Kazuya, Ligia, and Aisha disguise themselves in military academy and decide to eat at the cafe where Juno works. While eating, it becomes apparent Aisha has a secret gluttonous side that almost rivals Pancho. Kazuya learns that polygamy is legal and socially acceptable and is surprised when Lucia claims she would be willing to let Kazuya have up to 8 wives, including herself, ensuring she got him to herself at least 1 day a week. While considering the implications of Kazuya overhears a young lady arguing with a man at the table. Kazuya narrates that because Alfred and royalty are humans, the generals of the Army, Navy, and Air Force are from non-human species to ensure equality, but the generals are currently ignoring Kazuya. In June's cafe, the lady, a mystic fox named Kitafoxia, argues with her friend Halbert Magna, who is supporting the Carmen Duchy against Kazuya. Kid has correctly guessed Kazuya's intentions for trying to better the kingdom. Kazuya reveals himself and points out that as a mage for Alfredan's army, Kairi would have to fight if Duke Carmen starts a civil war. Glaive, Halbert's father, asks Kazi his forgiveness for her son. Kazuya instead has called a promoted to staff officer in his royal guard and transfers Halbert to the same unit to be Kaido's subordinate. In gratitude, Glaive asks for a private meeting to give Kazuya important information. Magic comprises 6 disciplines, the 4 elements plus light and darkness. Fire mages join the Army, wind the Air Force, water the Navy, and earth the Forbidden Army, while light becomes medics. Dark abilities are varied. Kazuya uses his magic to possess a doll called Little Musa Shibo. Little Musa Shibo joins adventures mapping tunnels beneath the city. They encounter a salamander that forces them to flee, with Little Musa Shibo saving one adventurer who develops a crush on him. Thanks to Kazuya's secretaries, he secures the funds for Project Venetanova, the building of at Alfredo's coast, and hundreds of new roads. Kazuya visits Venetanova but learns construction was halted by a village elder named Urep, claiming the land belongs to Kaijan, god of the sea, and is guarded by a sea monster. After speaking to Urep, Kazuya determines the monster is actually legend, warning that the land is dangerous to build on, and deduces that a tsunami strikes that land every few hundred years, so he relocates Venetanova and has earth mages construct giant flood defenses, impressing Ligia that he is ensuring the kingdom's safety, potentially thousands of years in the future. Kazuya considers how Alfred technology is different from Japan, as self-reading is short of laborers. Kazuya has 50 soldiers from his Forbidden Army, including Keed and Halbert, construct the road network. Kazuya inspects the road, revealing it improves transportation but also ensures wildlife is not negatively affected. Aisha technology is different from Japan, as self-reading is short of laborers. Kazuya has 50 soldiers from his Forbidden Army, including Keed and Halbert, construct the road network. Kazuya inspects the road, revealing it improves transportation but also ensures wildlife is not negatively affected. Aisha receives word from her father chief Woden that a landslide in the god protected forest buried half their village. Kazuya mobilizes the 50 soldiers, while also sending Lygia to gather reinforcements as the forest is 2 days away by foot. Kazuya has his men travel much faster on wagons pulled by earth dragons. Kazuya and the men begin disaster rescue with prototype wood and mice. Controlled by his magic, locate all the missing dark elves, whether alive or dead. Lygia arrives with reinforcements to clean up the landslide and begin rebuilding the village. Woden's brother Robe Thor is devastated as his wife is dead and his daughter seriously injured. Aisha reveals Rob Thor was one of the main opponents of Kazuya's suggestion of thinning overpopulated trees, which could have prevented the landslide. Lygia is surprised when Kazuya privately blames himself for not ensuring sufficient disaster preparedness for the whole kingdom. Kazuya is having trouble sleeping from stress, so Juna begins singing him to sleep. Air Force General Castor Vargas wants to rebel against Kazuya with the support of the Amadina Principality, but Navy General Excel Walters is reluctant. Army General Gorek disaster preparedness for the whole kingdom. Kazuya is having trouble sleeping from stress, so Juna begins singing him to sleep. Air Force General Castor Vargas wants to rebel against Kazuya with the support of the Amadina Principality, but Navy General Excel Walters is reluctant. Army General Gorek Carmen despises Kazuo for removing men of authority in the name of efficiency. In Amadonia, King Gaius reveals he ultimately plans to betray both sides. Kazuya declares the food shortage is over and must move on to a plan he considers cruel but necessary for Alfred. In security, Gaius ignores his minister Colbert's warnings that his plan violates the ban on inter-kingdom conflict. Colbert is fired, so Gaius's daughter Aurora involves Colbert in her plan. Instead, Kazuya meets the generals and warns either they submit to his rule or become traitors. Excel is satisfied to hear that he will take no revenge and will keep Lagoon City as Alfredon's naval base, so she submits. Castor refuses to accept Kazuya as king and becomes a traitor alongside Jorg. Lygia cuts her hair, which to a lion man like Jorg is a vow of absolute resolve. Kazuya thanks Juna for arranging peace with her grandmother. Amadina begins their invasion, planning to occupy Alfred. Altamora's Lord Weiss Guerrero surrenders to Gaius in exchange for time to convince his soldiers loyal to Kazuya to surrender. Halbert and Keed lead the Forbidden Army, Kazuya's royal guard, and the elves against Carmine's army and defeat them. Carmine is betrayed by the corrupt nobles he sheltered, but he in turn berates their lack of battlefield experience and hatches his own plan in secret. It is revealed why Castor sends his air force against the Forbidden Army and is surprised when Kazuya sends his largest battleship, Albert, straight to his fortress. Castor sends his daughter Carla to destroy the ship and capture Kazuya. Carla regrets she could not convince her father to side with Kazuya, finds no crew or Kazuya, only a wooden hand. She realizes Kazuya was controlling Albert himself by magic to draw out the remaining air force. Kazu and his army to attack Castor in his fortress without any defenses. Castor is defeated by Aisha, Lygia, and little Masashibo. Castor accepts his defeat, and he and Carla are fitted with slave callers as their subordinate. Tolman is given command of the Air Force in order to support the Forbidden Army. Carla is surprised. Kazuya allows people he considers friends like Halbert and Kay to speak to him casually. Carmine declares to the corrupt nobles that they have lost when they suggest citizens as human shields. He has them arrested, and both them and himself fitted with slave collars. Casio reveals Carmine was never a traitor. He was loyal to Kazuya the whole time, but posed as a traitor to expose the hidden treason of the corrupt nobles, allowing Kazuya to remove them for good. This had been the Important information Glade gave during their private meeting. Excel reveals herself to Gaius, who realizes he had been tricked. Kazuya to the entire kingdom, his defeat of Carmine and Castor, and intention to invade Aindina. Gaius attempts to return to Amadina but loses half his army to Forbidden Army, ambushes along the way, and by the time he makes it back to Van and Medina's royal capital, Kazuya has already captured it. Gaius orders his army to attack. Kazuya is troubled over war so easily and concludes he must actually act like a king. Gaius orders his son, Julius, to retreat. He then enters the battle to kill Kazuya. Kazuya attempts to give a verbal last will and testament to Carla, naming Lygia queen if he dies, but Carla refuses and insists on killing Diaspora. Carla is overwhelmed by Gaius until he is distracted by Kazuya's arrival. Masahiro to grab Gaius and explode. Gaia survives long enough to throw his sword at Kazuya's feet before being shot by Kazuya's archers. Aurora receives word of her father's death, and despite her dislike of him, begins to cry, knowing he cannot legally claim a Medina due to the ban on inter-kingdom war, and that Medina's citizens are bitter against Alfredan. Cassia instead sells their stockpiles of weapons for rebuilding funds and orders food supplied from Alfredan to combat Medina's food shortages. He also broadcasts a musical program hosted by Aisha and Juna, including Margarita Wonder, Amadonia's most popular general, singing their national anthem to prove he has no ill will against Amadonia now or in the future. Maria Euphoria, the idealistic leader of the Grand Chaos Empire who created the ban on inter-kingdom war, sends her sister Jeannie to meet Kazuya. Kazuya is exhausted as ever since ending